Hey, happy Sunday. It's Daryl here. It's 11 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. It's a little bit of a different video today. I usually don't like, I don't like sitting here and just rehashing and telling you guys news stories. You can go somewhere else, you can go to a more professional place to get your news. But these are two stories that I found very interesting and they're kind of foggy. And I think I have the skinny on both of them and I want to share what I've learned with you guys. The 9 ballots in Pennsylvania that were supposedly thrown in the garbage. Okay, let's get down to it. The DOJ came out with a story, and I'll get to the DOJ in a minute because that's the DOJ. DOJ is the bigger story on how they reacted to this. The way they went against their own regulations with this. All right. The 9 ballots. They were military ballots. They were not mail-in ballots. They were not absentee ballots. They came in, and the reason they were thrown out is they were initially mistaken for ballot request envelopes, not actual votes. So they were opened up at that point. When they were opened up, they discovered that there should be a second envelope to shield the vote. These were what they call naked ballots. When they opened up the first one, because they thought that they thought that this was just request forms. So they opened up these 9, and they had what they call naked ballots. They weren't properly mailed or put in the envelopes like the instructions say. They opened up the initial envelope, and the ballot was just sitting there. It was called a naked ballot. It was not in another envelope, which it should have been, to shield it. Now, here's the interesting thing, and they were thrown out, and it's still sketchy if 7 of them out of the 9 were Trump votes or not. But here's the kicker. The reason they were thrown out is because the Trump administration in Pennsylvania, along with the GOP legislature in Pennsylvania, went to court to have naked ballots thrown out and not be counted. So, following along with what the Trump administration went to court and won the court battle, that naked ballots be thrown out and not counted. And they were summarily thrown out and not counted, just like the Trump administration had fought for and won. So, it is the Trump administration's own fault these ballots were thrown out. They argued that naked ballots should not be counted. And following what the Trump administration wanted and won in a lawsuit in Pennsylvania, they were summarily thrown out. So now on to the DOJ. Now, the DOJ does not usually confirm or deny to the White House about an investigation. They did with this. As a matter of fact, Attorney Barr went right to President Trump himself and filled him in on this. And then Trump, in turn, used it as political ammunition. The DOJ went against its own regulations and talked about an ongoing investigation. And on top of that, they went against regulations where they actually mentioned the candidate's name that was on the ballots. So they broke like 2 or 3 of their regulations here, their own regulations. Another interesting part of this is they've come out 3 times and they redacted or pulled back on their original statement. And then they basically came out 3 times. And by the 3rd time, they just basically kept their mouth shut and didn't say much about who the votes were for or anything. But this is the story now. So it might have been 7. It's the bottom line is they're not really sure who these votes were for. But the reason they were thrown in the garbage is because the Trump administration fought for naked ballots to not be counted and thrown away. These ballots were military ballots that came in, and they were not properly mailed. There was the initial envelope that looked, for some reason, I don't know if they mistakenly mailed these in the wrong envelope, that looked like an absentee ballot request form. And when they received it, they thought it was a ballot request form, and they opened it up. It was really a situation where the system of checks and balances for a fair, unfraudulent election actually worked. As soon as this was discovered, they called in the state police, the local police, the election officials. Everybody got in on this, and they figured it out. They figured out it was a temporary worker. There was a contractor that was hired to do this, a contractor that was hired to go through or sort the incoming mail, the incoming ballots. And the temporary worker was let go. I don't even know why, to tell you the truth, because it sounds like this person didn't even do anything wrong. They were following regulations per the Trump administration. Interesting. So I don't know. At first I thought that the Trump administration would be using all these 9 ballots as ammunition to further their lies and innuendo about fraudulent mail-in ballots. But now, seeing as the reason these ballots were thrown in the garbage was because of the Trump administration's own fight to have naked ballots thrown away. And these were naked ballots. They got what they wanted. All right, onward. Next story. Okay, there's this gentleman. I am not a right-wing fan. There's this gentleman called James O'Keefe, apparently, and he likes to go around and try to catch Democrats cheating and cheating on voting. He basically he's like a reporter, a video maker, and he sets up situations trying to catch Democrats or voting rights groups taking bribes, faking ballots. And from what I've seen a commercial. I've seen a commercial by him that makes innuendos that, there's all sorts of stuff going on they're not telling you about. But no evidence. Zero. Zip. There's two situations here, one for sure and another one in North Carolina that they think it was this O'Keefe fella. The first one happened in, I believe it was Wisconsin. This James O'Keefe posed as something called Zeitgeist Pictures, a movie company. And he tried he donated money to a voting rights group there. And then casually asked if there was any way they could get illegal immigrants to vote. And that was denied. So he didn't get anything worth using there. Now in North Carolina, a similar thing just happened. I think it was last week. North Carolina, somebody calling themselves James Fortune showed up at a voting rights, a Democrat run, I guess, or a voting rights group in North Carolina. Donated a couple $1,000. Said he was from a progressive gym. I've never heard of a progressive. I go to gyms, but I didn't know there was progressive or right-wing gyms. He said he was from a progressive gym, and same situation. He donated a couple $1,000, and then he casually came back. He came back a little later and asked if there's any way that maybe we could get some of my friends to vote here. They might not have their green cards. Do you think you could get them to get, think you could get some ballots so they could vote? And the people said no. And, right away they smelled a skunk. And it's not confirmed in North Carolina that it was this same James O'Keefe. This James O'Keefe runs something called Project Veritas. I believe that's the commercial that I saw. It shows this James O'Keefe guy in a jacket saying with some right-wing slogan on the back. And he's spewing this stuff about them not telling you the truth and cheating on ballots and election fraud and what you don't know, but we're gonna find out for you. And apparently he's got nothing. He's trying, but he's got nothing. So two very interesting stories, both having to do with the Trump administration trying desperately to come up with something they could call mail-in voting fraud. But zip, zero. I got quite a kick out of these 9 ballots being thrown away because the worker was following the rules that the Trump administration had fought for, that naked ballots be thrown away, and these were naked military ballots. So the Trump administration fought for their own military ballots to be thrown away, naked ballots. Interesting. I don't think that either they're going to lie about this. If they're going to, you'll probably hear more about these 9 ballots, and they'll probably deny that they were naked ballots. But this is the truth. As far as I've waited to talk about this until I got what I knew was the truth, and this is the truth. Why they were thrown away. Interesting. All right, I'll be back later with some more videos. You guys have a good Sunday.